So, welcome back children. Again it's the continuation of our circulatory system, third part of our circulatory or cardiovascular system, CVS, cardiovascular system, heart and blood vessels. Okay. And in today's class I will explain you certain terms like valves, arteries, veins and capillaries. Okay. So, in the previous classes with diagram and labeling I have explained you what are the sides of a heart and what are the chambers of a heart and which vessels are coming out from which chamber. So, everything in brief I have made you familiar. Okay. Now, you can use that the imagination to understand things better here in this class. Okay. Now, let us see what are valves, V-A-L-V-E-S. Now, first of all, see, now I am standing like this. Now, this is my left side of the heart and this is the right side of the heart. So, in the same way that is denoted here, right side and left side. Okay. Now, what is this A and A? A for atrium, A for atria. Okay. These are the upper chambers of the heart. So, this is right side. So, right atrium, left side, left atrium. Now, the lower chambers V and V. What is V for? V is for ventricles. So, now right ventricle, left ventricle. Now, in between atria and ventricle, there are which valves? I have told you already in the previous classes. Atrioventricular valves. So, atrioventricular valves are present between atrium and ventricle, okay, in between atria and ventricles. Now, so what are the names of atrioventricular valves? So, the atrioventricular valve which is present on the right side is called as tricuspid valve. Okay. Tricuspid means tri means 3, cuspid means cusps. So, you can see here in the diagram how many cusps? 1, 2, 3. The 3 cusps they just fold. Cusp means it will be like this. Okay. So, from 3 sides they will just close the opening of the valves, I mean opening of the vessels or the opening present between atria and ventricle. Okay. Now, if these 3 cusps come close together, the opening gets closed. If they move back, again it is left patent, it is kept open for the blood to flow from atria to ventricles, for the blood to flow from atrium to ventricles. Okay. So, now what is the valve? What is the atrioventricular valve which is present on the left side, which is present on the left which is present in between left atrium and left ventricle? What is it? Bicuspid or mitral valve. 2 names, bicuspid valve we can say or else mitral valve also we can say. So, what is bicuspid now here? See how many cusps? 1 and 2. Bi means 2. So, 2 cusps are present. These 2 cusps if they come close together, the opening, okay, it gets closed. If they move back, again the blood can easily flow from atria to ventricles. Now, why is the name mitral? Mitral means it came from the cap of a some priest or a pope. How does the cap looks like? How does the cap look like? They wear a cap like structure. It is like this, long, and there are like it looks in this shape, right? So, 2 cusps, that is why mitral valve. So, this is called as a meter, I think, something like this. Okay. So, this cap is referred to as meter. So, from this the word mitral valve, 2 cusps, okay, the cap of a pope or a priest. Now, so that is how they are named and their function is, see, the cusps they open and close. Okay. When the blood has to flow from atrium to ventricle from right atrium to right ventricle. Which cusp will open? Tricuspid valve. Which valve will open? Tricuspid valve. When the blood has to flow from left atrium to left ventricle, which valve will open? Bicuspid or mitral valve. Now let us see what are semi-lunar valves. Semi means half, lunar means moon. Half moon means the shape of those valves are like this. See this one, this is the any vessel, this is the vessel, blood vessel, and see they are in the shape of half moon. Okay, so they look like that. That's why they are named as semi-lunar valves. Now where are they present? Now this is our right ventricle and this is the pulmonary artery. So what vessel comes from this right side of the ventricle, right ventricle? Pulmonary artery means the artery which carries impure blood to lungs to purify them, right? So in between right ventricle and pulmonary artery there is a semilunar valve, and also in between left ventricle and systemic artery or aorta. Aorta, A-O-R-T-A. It is also called as systemic systems, body systems, systemic artery. Okay, why? Because from the heart blood is carried to all the body systems. Okay, that's why it is named like that, systemic artery. Now in between, so oxygenated blood is present in the left side of the heart, right? So that blood only is carried to all the body systems. We know that very well. So in between left ventricle and systemic artery, the major artery, aorta, systemic artery or major artery or aorta, these semilunar valves are present. So semilunar valves are present between the ventricles and the main arteries, right? Pulmonary artery and systemic artery. Now this is about valves. So what is the main use of valves? I have already told you in the last class. They direct the flow in one particular direction only. If the fluid wants to flow backwards, these valves will not allow it, only one direction. So let us see here. Now the blood can always flow from atrium to ventricle. That's all. Ventricle to pulmonary artery. That's all. Here also left ventricle to left atrium to left ventricle and left ventricle to systemic artery. There is no reverse flow. Okay. It doesn't flow in the reverse direction unless the valves are dysfunctional. Okay, in certain cases of heart diseases in which the valves doesn't function properly, then only there is blood regurgitation. Blood flows in reverse direction. For a normal healthy person, for you and me, they doesn't allow the blood to flow in reverse direction, only in one particular direction, one way. Okay, one way. From here to here, from here to here, that's it. So that is the importance of valves, main function of valves. Now let's come to arteries. What are arteries? From where are arteries starting? They start from the heart itself. Pulmonary artery, it starts from the right side of the heart, from the right ventricle. Now systemic artery or aorta, I'm sorry. Now systemic artery or aorta, it starts from let me have some water. Okay. Systemic artery or aorta, it starts from left side of the heart, that is left ventricle. Okay. Now these arteries, their walls are much thicker, right? The walls of the arteries, they are thick. See, this is the lumen, this is the opening of the artery. It is narrower, it is very small, but see the wall of the vessel, it is very thick. See the thickness. Now this is the thickness. Okay. So this is the transverse section. If we cut the artery into in a transverse direction, now it looks like that. Narrow lumen. Lumen is the empty space through which the blood can flow, okay, present within the artery. So the lumen is narrow, whereas the arteries walls are thick. Now So, there are semilunar valves. I have told you there are semilunar valves in those two major arteries, but the other arteries in our body, they do not have valves. Okay. Why? There is no need to have valves. Why is it so? Because the arteries, they have thick walls and they are starting from the heart itself. Now, heart pumps the blood, heart beats rhythmically, right? So, that rhythm, that pressure is enough for the blood to flow in the right direction. Okay, no need of valves. Okay, there's no need to guide the flow of the blood. Okay, so no need of valves. So arteries do not have valves. Only semilunar valves are present only in between right ventricle and pulmonary artery, left ventricle and pulmonary artery, in between that area, and that's all. The rest of all the arteries, they do not have valves. And see, the musculature, the artery is made up of thick muscles, right? It's the muscle tissue only, muscle tissue is present and it is thick, it is much thicker. So, the arteries, they have the capacity to retain their shape. Even if blood is present or not, the arteries will not lose their shape, means they do not collapse. Okay, they just retain their shape is maintained, they do not get shaped out. Okay. See, before death, what happens to our body before death? All our arteries, they are emptied, there won't be any blood in our arteries, but the veins, there is pooling of blood in our veins, blood collects in the veins, right? So, at that time also the arteries, they don't collapse, shape is retained. Now, these arteries, another name for arteries are red blood vessels. Okay, vessels means the things which carry the blood. Red blood means pure, oxygenated blood. Oxygenated blood is bright red in color. Okay, so arteries are called as red blood vessels, red blood vessels. And what is the pressure in the arteries? It is high pressure. Now, who is giving that pressure? The pumping of the heart, the heartbeat, the rhythmic beat of the heart, it gives pressure, it creates pressure in the arteries in a way that blood is carried properly to the head and neck region and also to our hands and feet, everywhere. That pressure takes care. Okay, so there is high pressure in the arteries, the blood flows with high pressure. Okay, that is the normal good amount of pressure, no need of valves. Okay, so now all the arteries in our body, they carry oxygenated blood only, except pulmonary artery, means the artery which connects the heart with the lungs, it will carry deoxygenated blood, means the blood which contains CO2, carbon dioxide. Okay, rest all the arteries, they carry oxygenated blood. Okay, why is it so? See, the right side of the heart, there is impure blood. Okay, this impure blood is taken to lungs by pulmonary artery, that's why the name pulmonary, to lungs. Okay, pulmonary term indicates lungs. Why to lungs? Lungs are the ones which give oxygen to the blood again, right? Now, so the oxygen we breathe in enters our lungs. So from our lungs, it gets purified. Now the carbon dioxide that is produced in our body is brought back to this pulmonary artery, and this carbon dioxide filled blood is taken back to lungs to expel outside, for us to breathe it out, send it out of our body. Okay. Now let us see about veins. So now if you compare how the vein looks like, see, the lumen is wider, whereas the musculature, means the walls of the veins are thin, you can easily compare. Okay. It is much thin than the walls of the arteries. Okay, and veins should have valves for guiding the flow in one particular direction. They should have valves. Okay, so generally for our legs and hands, everywhere, every body organ, in every corner of our body, okay, there is deoxygenated blood is produced. Now it should be carried back, means the blood should move against the gravity. While I am standing and explaining you now, the impure blood, the deoxygenated blood from my legs, from my toes, it should be brought back to heart. Means what? The blood should flow in one direction only, it should not get pulled there. So there is requirement of valves, means while I am standing, while I am moving, walking, my muscles are working, right? So I keep on moving. While standing also, I will just keep moving so that my muscles will work and my muscles will compress the veins which are surrounding it, okay. So they create certain pressure so that the deoxygenated blood is pushed back, it is pushed against the gravity towards the side of the heart. So valves, they do not allow the reverse flow, okay. They will not allow the impure blood to come back into my legs. So my blood is just channeled to go to go in the direction of heart only, okay. That is why veins require valves, okay. In some cases, people who do whose occupation requires prolonged standing, in such persons we can see a disturbance in the veins, okay. They will be having bulged veins, okay. That condition is called as varicose veins. That is a medical terminology for that abnormal condition. So that is why we should not stand, there shouldn't be prolonged standing, we should be moving, okay. Sitting or any position should not be maintained continuously, okay. For hours together we should not be in one position only, we should be moving. Our body is in such a way that we should keep moving quite often, then only the muscles will work and everything will be, the physiology will be normal in our body. So that is why we should not stand continuously. So now veins have valves. Now veins, see, the musculature is very thin and the lumen is big, of course. So veins are not so thick, the walls are not so thick, they are not strong enough. So when the blood is not there, when we are having diarrhea, so vomitings and loose motions, in such conditions what happens? We get dehydrated, right? There is dehydration, all the water content in our body, it comes out of our body, means the blood volume reduces, means the quantity of blood gets low. Then what happens? There is no enough blood in our vessels, then which will collapse? Arteries won't collapse, veins will collapse, okay. Veins will so during diarrhea and such conditions, if you observe your hand, generally when we observe our veins after having food, we can see them, they just bulge and we can notice them. But in cases like diarrhea, our veins collapse, we can't find our veins, okay. Even to put that saline also, the nurse will search our vein, she will be poking and finally try to get a vein. So why is that happening? It's because veins collapse and veins are present superficially, right? Arteries are deeply seated. And what is the other name for veins? Blue blood vessels, they are blue in color. Why? Because the blood in the veins, it has carbon dioxide which makes the blood appear blue. Oxygen, if there is oxygen, the blood is bright red in color. If there is carbon dioxide in the blood appears blue, purplish, okay. Now, so the pressure also is low, okay. There is nobody is our cells and our systems, they don't push the blood, right? The veins just drain the blood. So there is no organ is exerting pressure. So that is why the pressure in the veins is comparatively very less when compared to the pressure of the blood in the arteries, okay. Only because of the pressure given by the muscles, the blood tries to flow towards the heart. Now all the veins, they carry deoxygenated blood, means the blood in which oxygen is not there but carbon dioxide is there, except pulmonary vein. See, this is the vein that carries pure blood from lungs to the heart. Okay, lungs, when we breathe in fresh air, oxygen, they enter, that air enters lungs, and from there the pulmonary vein carries that oxygenated blood to heart to pump it throughout our body. So, veins in general carry deoxygenated blood except pulmonary vein, which carries oxygenated blood. See here, pulmonary vein, O2, oxygen, blood filled with oxygen, oxygenated blood. Now, so who is the scientist who did many experiments to prove that blood flows in one direction only? So, who is the scientist? Very important name, William Harvey. William Harvey is the scientist who did experiments to prove that blood flows in one direction only because of valves, right? Now, let us see what are capillaries. So, in Latin, capillary means hair, capillaries means hairs, means these capillaries are as thin as the finest of the hairs. Okay. Now, who is the scientist who discovered capillaries? It is written here, Marcello Malpighi. Okay. This Marcello Malpighi, he observed our body structures under microscope, and then he found out structures called as capillaries. These capillaries are very thin, very minute. You can compare with the arteries and veins. Okay, and they are of one cell thickness. The wall of the capillaries are one cell thickness, only one cell in thickness. Okay, so that the WBC, the cells which give us immunity, the soldier cells, the fighter cells, can easily squeeze out of the capillaries. Okay, they can just come out of the capillaries, and they maintain a continuity between the veins and arteries. Okay, if there is any foreign particle found in veins, these WBC, they just come into veins through the capillaries. If there is any foreign particle noticed in arteries, then again through the capillaries. So, capillaries is a connection between the veins and arteries. Capillaries are the endings, they are the endings of arteries and veins. Okay, all major arteries, all major veins, they divide and divide and divide, and finally end up as capillaries, blood capillaries, very fine structures which are directly connected to each and every single body cell. Okay. Now, so this is what about valves and these structures. Okay, you can correlate this to the diagram we have seen in the previous classes, and tomorrow we will come up with cardiac cycle. Okay, the cycle, how the heart beats, how much time and all we can know. So, thank you children, I hope this is of good use to you. Okay.